The views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Union Broadcasting Inc., ESPN 1510, or its employees. The host is solely responsible for the on-air content.
Welcome back to Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. I am Bobby Keys.
And I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis, and we first in this season of gratitude want to be sure to say thank you to the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
Who is our underwriter and sponsor. We are very, very grateful.
Yeah, thank you very much for all
very
that you
much.
do.
And a shout out to Jeffrey Byrne and thank him for underwriting our cool Casey Cares coffee mugs.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of coffee that's
passed through these
mugs.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which we love. And conversation. We have to say, we were so excited about a recent guest who was here as part of another organization. He was here as part of Della and talking about the great things that Della Lamb Community Services does in the community. We wanted to know the backstory of Peter Makori, who is a case manager with Della Lamb. But Peter has such an amazing, incredible story to share, a journey that has brought him to helping other refugees who've come to America. And so we wanted Peter to share his story. And I have to tell you, Bobby, when I said, send me a little background. And it was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, right. I mean, the list and the thing. We were talking earlier, and there's just so many interesting pieces of information that hopefully we can get through all of it.
Peter, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're going to put the spotlight on you as our philanthropy profile. So let's set the stage a little bit for our listeners. You came to America from the east coast of Africa, from Kenya specifically.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that growing up and your movement into career and what your life was like.
Yeah, thank you. I came from America, from Kenya, in the year 2006. I was working as a journalist, but there was a reason why I decided to take journalism as a career. I was born in Western Kenya, specifically Kisii. The Kisii-speaking people live on the highlands of, the eastern part of Lake Victoria. Mm-hmm. And so I was born in a family of 10.
Oh, wow. And now were you the oldest or youngest?
No, I am youngest, kind of in the middle.
Okay.
I'm the
middle child.
Fifth born. And raised poor. We lived in abject poverty. We slept hungry many, many times. I did my elementary education in Kisii. And when I finished my middle school in 1986, there was no money for me to proceed to high school. My father was not able, he's deceased, but he wasn't able to assist me. And I literally started fighting for myself at that tender age. I could move from place to place to ask for help because I loved to learn. One person sponsored me to do my 9th grade. I only did 2 semesters. I dropped out. I started doing home studies by myself. At one time, I remember 1988, I went to a local high school and requested to be admitted. I was admitted. There was no money. I promised, government would help. Government doesn't have such programs anyway, but you must pay for yourself. If you don't have the money, you stay home. Yeah. So I remember the head teacher, one time when the money was not forthcoming, he viciously attacked me and beat me up and accused me, why are you coming to school if your parents are not able to pay school fees for you? Get out of here. And I was really beaten up. I remember that. Went home, continued to do my own studies, and enrolled for a high school certificate. And I completed that. requested for assistance to study journalism in Tanzania. There was no money. I dropped out, so I started writing from Western Kenya for the Standard newspaper. So I focused primarily on stories which touch on the lives of people. People who lived where I come from were equally very poor. It's not that we are the only ones who are poor. People were very poor, extremely poor. So the motivating reasons as to why I thought journalism was the best career for me is that it provided an opportunity for me to advocate for those people who were living in similar circumstances as myself. So my focus was to attack those or expose those circumstances that contributed to the increase of poverty in the region, and this was corruption. Because government resources were being diverted into individual hands at the expense of benefiting the people. And so I kept on investigating these things and documented them in the newspapers. When the government realized I was still pushing this agenda, I started getting arrested. In 1994, I was arrested and kept in detention for 15 days.
Now, would they just show up to your house and just arrest you?
Yes. They come and tell you are wanted by their boss, the police boss. Then I was bundled into, a Land Rover truck, and driven about 250 kilometers away from my home.
Oh, wow.
Then I was kept in detention, charged with publishing defamatory information against the government of Kenya. And I was kept in custody for 15 days. I came out. I again kept on writing, and the government didn't like that. I was again arrested. Then I was detained for about 3 days. I came out, and I still kept on writing. And the motivation was corruption retards development, undermines the upward growth of people. People who were living in my same situation needed some support in order to make a difference of their lives. So it became like a hide and seek game between me and the government. I was telling the government, I have a duty to do my job. If I am writing anything that you think is not true, review it. They did not want to care about it, and sometimes I could be attacked by goons who are, criminals.
Yeah.
Who are paid by politicians. I think in 1996, I was viciously attacked during a public rally, just like the Trump rally somewhere where he signaled his supporters, and they attacked some people who were perceived to be against, his agenda as a presidential candidate. Something like that happened. And I was beaten up. Police were watching, and I was...
And they just stood by?
Yes, they stood by, and they arrested me, took me to custody, and I was injured seriously. I said, take me to hospital. They said, no, we can't. You've been a problem. And then I stayed in custody for 24 hours, and then some friends came. They intervened from, some quarters, and I was released without charges. I went to hospital, and I got medication, but I was injured. Then I came out. I still kept on writing with the international newspapers and, like Associated Press, BBC, Reuters. I could contribute reporting on ethnic clashes which were politically instigated in Western Kenya. But I was still being arrested each time. The worst one came in 2003 when I was arrested from a murder scene where I was reporting the killing of 2 tribal chiefs. So the police picked me up, took me to the local police station, and I was informed that you've been arrested for robbery with violence. Then I said, what do you mean? How do I do that? So I thought it was the usual run-ins with them, and when the night came, they removed me from their cells and took me kilometers away from home and kept me in a not very nice cell. After 2 days, they came armed with the truncheons, wooden wooden boards, and they beat me up. They beat me senseless.
Just beating the police did this?
They beat me, yeah. The police beat me. They tied my legs with a rope, and they beat me up and asked me to confess for that murder that I was covering. And I said, what do you mean? I don't do those things. So they didn't stop. They beat me. When I thought they wanted to kill me, I said, you can kill me, because they realized I was not confessing as they wanted. It was very sad. They became very violent. They kicked me, stepped on me, pulled me, and they knocked me against the walls, and they stepped on me. And, I said, now you can kill me, So
but you never confessed.
Why? I couldn't confess for
Absolutely,
something I didn't know
You
about.
didn't do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know anything. And then they left me there. And then they went. I stayed there for about, I think, 24, maybe 48 hours. And I didn't get medication. And I couldn't walk. So I was not able to stand or sit or, it wasn't something very good.
Now, is this something that was typical with reporters, or were you the single, journalist, or were you just singled out because you were more vocal in your
From
opposition?
that region, I was the only one.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes the government could take very tough measures against the independent journalists. But my case being from a region where I was very vocal, they wanted to silence me. And I think I said, I cannot be silenced, because I thought I had a duty to the people whose lives that I knew were in that situation because of poor government policies that were meant to help them come out of those situations.
So how did you ultimately get out?
I didn't know that I would come out. I thought I would die, and many people thought I was going to die in prison. I stayed. They took me to prison, charged me with the murder. They removed me again from my Kisii home, and they took me to Lake Victoria. And there's a very harsh prison there, and I was kept for about almost 11 months.
But you finally got out. The Attorney General
of Kenya entered what they call a null prosecution, like a non-prosecution, because I was a victim of malicious prosecution. I sued the government of Kenya. They lost the case. To this day, they have not paid my compensation, which I've been pushing. Right now, I am in court seeking to have a top government official at the office of the president, like a Secretary of State, something like that, to be arrested for failing to pay the compensation. It's a tough
I would
call.
bet it's very tough.
Yes.
So you came here,
Yes.
ultimately. You worked for the Star for a while. You went back to school.
Yes.
Why did you decide, after all this trauma and everything, to go to work for an organization that helps other refugees?
I suffered for supporting people who are less privileged. I believe that is my duty, and I believe that helping people for the sake of God is a blessing. Very few people would have had the opportunity to do what I've been able to do from a society which has very weak implementation of the law to a society where the rule of law reigns supreme, if I can say that. I will tell you that even when I was doing my undergraduate and graduate school at UMKC, I donated much of my time to help refugees from Central Africa who had come to America facing various challenges, and I helped them without pay. I feel it is a privilege to work with a non-profit like Della, which does a commendable job helping these people who have nothing. They know nobody here. They don't know how to navigate the systems here. And so it's a pleasure for me to offer my assistance to them.
Well, it's a blessing to have you here in Kansas City and to share this story.
What a wow. It's just amazing just to see what you've gone through and where you've come and what you're doing now.
Yes.
And how you're helping.
It is, I can tell you that I do not take anything for granted in America. People who live in America think that the rest of the world is the same. No, it's not. When you see non-profit agencies, for example, when Della exhausts its initial grant to resettle these people for the first 90 days, the 91st day, basically the refugee is on his own. But then Della seeks help, like some donors to assist. And at this point, I can say that we still need such help to help those people who face significant challenges, particularly after the 91st day in America, so that they are assisted to continue working towards attainment of full self-sufficiency. Going to school in America, where you have government grants, is not something that, as an immigrant, I take for granted. It is a privilege that I can say that many of us who migrated to this country believe that it should be utilized with accountability, and I'm a beneficiary of that.
We are so glad and so privileged that you're in our nonprofit community helping people. And if you want to know more about Peter, you can contact him through dellalam.org.
We're going to have to go out there and
we're going to capture you in action.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing this powerful story.
Yeah, thanks for hosting me. I appreciate it.